towards route, which was definitely required in that moment. They had to finish off Quacks there and then before they could go for that. So lovely stuff. Kakali still alive, by the way, for BW and RX, and I think they're very happy with how this all panned out. Being towards the 6th place, like fighting against one another. K1 moving down over towards the EX Brothers.
Outside, really heating up as Thundertalk keeping it hot on the north edge, as well as Root trying to move out, but they have to turn around and play back. Thundertalk wanting to go over the ridge, but they know they can't until Root can make their move. Blue Zone's pushing in as K1 sweep the X Brothers out of the running. Hamzy actually moved over for Pubg, who also still have that solo position, over towards K1. Now, he might be in a 1 versus 4 fight, and I don't think that's going to be fine. Kakali has to hold his own, and this might be the end for BW next Root.
Well, look, Willie flying to first, drops to the deck. Nice look for Caprice, but round the corner, just on the bumper there on the vehicle, he will be taken out and not a single flush found. But 6th place for BWNRX, this should have been a much better game for them, but I think at least getting 6th place in 2 eliminations, it's not too bad.
Hamzy, it feels like K1 know there's something going on. Just a little bit, but info gathering for now. Hill continuing to take punishment from Thundertalk. First knock goes on through. Fortunately though, over the hill, K1 have rolled up and out and into the fight. 2 players now as Striker goes down. Symphony gets knocked. Nico the last to stand, and in the blink of an eye, a team with 12 eliminations may be reduced to ashes as K1 looks for the afterburners on him. Nico, position known now. They're spraying into the smoke. The hovercraft and launch the forwards, but out of the smoke he jumps. However, the hovercraft is down upon him. In the meantime, also fell, and Hamzy up into 3rd place.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I think Hamzy goes for a very cool play there, where instead of backing away from K1, he creeps ever closer towards the field now up against K1 to get right up in their face, and they're cleaning house at the moment. Hamzy on the back line will fight through.
Okay, this is a 1 versus 2 now. The 4th position entirely isolated. He knows that reses are going to be enacted there. Bad boy on the off angle. Has it on lock though with AUG. Hamzy looked like he had something to say, but 2nd place, you'll take it. As a solo when there were, I think, 14 teams remaining, that is a great result. But K1 convinced me that they deserve that chicken dinner too.
Yeah, good sweep up coming through from K1 around the map, and Hamzy G again, like we said, kind of under their noses he creeped up and into a position where they just cleared. I don't think they were expecting that whatsoever, but yeah, very, very nice stuff coming through from Hamzy G. You love to see it. Again, that game should have really been in the favor of BW and RX, but I meant to be as S2G were just roaming towards the beginning of that map.
Yeah, they had quite a lot to say during that one. Again, some decent tallies coming up and onto the board. Unfortunate for Falcons, for Fireflux, they won't be able to do too much. That northern side for Thundertalk, who actually seemingly quite solid on these outside positions, were able to extract quite a lot of value from that game. So it'll be interesting to see where they fall on the overall standings. So far, I haven't been displeased with the matches. I think there's been a couple of misplays, I think it's safe to say, but overall the quality has been fairly solid.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, we're going to head to a quick break and we'll be back soon with map 5.
Available to you when you're going for these sort of militaries. circles. And I for one, I feel like it's a change that I've enjoyed so far, because before that it was you go for a very risky boat that can just get plinked out in the middle of nowhere, and you're basically done for if you get spotted. And the 2 bridges, those are your only ways in, right? Maybe a swim if you're lucky. But now there are so many more options available to you. You're so much more protected, and I think it's a healthy addition. I'm really enjoying what the hovercraft has done on this specific set of rotations.
Yeah, it just gives you plenty more options and plenty more safe options as well, which is the main thing from it. Like esports will be rotating around towards that south side, nestle in towards the coast. K1 managed to make it over towards the western edge, with Rook and Galatasaray trying to fight over towards the eastern side of the map, fight over that territory. I'm sort of interested on
numbers at the end of the match, though. WAQAS still atop the totem pole, at the top of the tables with 32 points to their name, currently holding off on this west side bridge on the northern shore, though, notably. It will be in this first circle, but the next one probably not going to be so lucky. Stranger things will happen, though, and we'll have to wait and see. We're on board now with the BX brothers again. Of course, they lost that player early, as we saw BWNRX finding that off angle. BWNRX actually have regrouped to the hills to the west side. That's a soft military base, and in general, a very strong place to operate from. Can be a little bit of an island. PTQ, such a stranglehold on this bridge position, and the Falcon feels like.
No matter what happens here for S2G, they'll be pleased with the result. 12 eliminations is gargantuan, especially on Erangel, where you're likely to see 6 to 10 elims on a chicken dinner. This is beautiful stuff. DX coming in with just Looney and Ramio. Pick up the pieces on this fight. Next circle pops with Guild actually holding a fairly decent position, but with only 2 players. And TTQ coming off, terrorizing on the north side over towards the Fireflux and Falcons.
Last player for BWNRX, Kikali, sending out towards that north side as well. Very close to TTQ. Symphony potentially first to face there, but not just yet. Yeah, Kikali backs off. I think that's the right decision. As a solo player, you can't be going for aggressive holds like that, especially when Rook are right around the corner. Teams to the east have yet to push in. But the info he's gathered is pretty important, and maybe giving off a bit of a larger presence than his solo position would otherwise entail with going for scout outs like that.
Just looking for something. They still hold the high ground though, at least on that north side. Galatasaray, K1 and Footballers all trying to make their way through, but it is really a case of Galatasaray as well as Footballers being in deadlock at the moment. Neither can really move without worrying that the other will take shots. So we're at a standstill for the time being.
For the time being, indeed. TTQ being ahead of this makes it so much harder for everyone on this eastern side. 7 elims for Thunder Talk as well, by the way. That was that bridge hold that has just been paying out for them. A lot of the players on Fireflux, on S2G, on Falcons as well, went into their piggy bank. So they'll be pretty happy with that. A couple of others as well. Happy to got those up. The vehicle, lighten it up and immediately shut down. You can't be moving out like that, unfortunately. There is a response. I think that came from Footballists as Quacks tries to roll out as well. K1 now moving in from that south edge as well makes it so difficult. There's just no way. And this is that deadlock that you were talking about. It's not going to happen. You just can't get out of it. However, can Rook third party? Yes, they've heard these shots. They could potentially be moving in to look for the angles onto Thunder Talk. They crest the ridge and 7 kick immediately pushed back.
Yeah, they finished off Quacks as well, so that's the last player from Galatasaray, and they can immediately take them out. 20 tries. Gun does fine for the shotgun shots on Kairos. Slightly more difficult position. Pubg makes way up the hill versus as K1 drops the deck, but not long for this world.
He's dropped as well, and that is going to be the flush fairly soon, you'd imagine. 20 for Rook, just about getting away with his health bar, but not much of it left, and Lost goes down as well. A really convincing hold for DQ, but they have lost players in the process. Striker in the forward position on the circle is going to need a res, but will be able to do so with the safety of the rocks, with the vehicles they've got. And Nico trying to suppress Root further back and maintain that safety, playing as 3. All important now. They're up to 9 elims with 7 teams remaining. 7 teams remaining.
Yeah, 11 total. Very nice stuff from Thundertalk this game, and a good setup down towards Galatasaray as well. They knew that both teams likely would be in that position. The only option Galatasaray really had was to roll up on that hillside, so they set themselves up there, and then an instantaneous transition over towards the clapback, over towards Root, which was definitely required in that moment. They had to finish off Quacks there and then before they could go for that. So lovely stuff. Kakai still alive, by the way, for BW and RX, and I think they're very happy with how this all panned out. Getting towards the 6th place, fighting against one another. K1 moving down over towards the EX Brothers.
Outside, really heating up as Thundertalk keeping it hot on the north edge, as well as Rook trying to move out, but they have to turn around and play back. Thundertalk wanting to go over the ridgeline, but they know they can't until Rook have made their move. The blue zone's pushing in as K1 sweep the X Brothers out of the running. Hamzy actually moved over for S2G, who also still have that solo position.
Like, this is a crazy result. I think they've been having some very good moments overall. It's been decent. It's been very, very decent, John. I've been happy to see them make some very strong plays, and they have been a consistent force throughout all of these moments in the game. Symphony's got the good jersey on.
Yeah, he's picked the right one there, fortunately, for this match. K1 as well, during that match, in general, I think it's safe to say they had events over the course of that game, and they definitely deserved their chicken dinner. Not super loud, not super braggadocious, but across the board, you can see everybody putting in a shift and getting the job done, which is beautiful. Yeah, that's exactly how you want to be playing this game, and if you're able to get those elims with it, all the better. You can see they're able to rack up 10, so not super quiet, but not super loud. Perfect in my book. I think that's exactly how it should be done.
Yeah, they bided their time down towards the south side and then just started sweeping. I think once you know you've got the 4-man buff, right, you're just going to move around the map. And I think they've been keeping good tabs on the other teams. It was aggressive, it was fast. And again, it could have gone differently, but I think by the time we got to that end game, a lot of those teams who had waited things out, like Falcons on that north side and Fireflux to move in on that western bridge, because it shifted a little bit up that way, kept the circle in long enough where a lot of teams would just hold them down, including Thundertalks, who got a lot of value out of that position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was really cool stuff. I think also during that game, S2G they had the most impact, I think, of any team directly onto other teams. Other than K1, it was S2G who were the real cat amongst the pigeons in that match. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that match. We'll see some of S2G's shenanigans on that South Side Island, as Barce came into conflict with them as well. The bridge crossing, the terminal destination for both the Falcons and Fireflies.
Yeah, I think for S2G, the funny thing is that S2G basically teed up K1 to finish off that game really soundly, because they'd already blasted anyone who was towards the center of the circle. And towards most center circle teams, they would have had that chance, because most of the outside teams were all getting ripped to shreds by anyone holding out inside of those buildings or on top of the hilltops. So that by the time K1 comes in, like, it's the stragglers, fine, we'll pick them up and get ourselves a nice, easy 10 elim game. So yeah, lovely stuff coming through from S2G. And again, I think a lot of the action, and I will reiterate it, does unfold because of S2G's action earlier on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Hamzy there. I mean, if you get that flush, that's a different match, right? It's unfortunate, though, they weren't quite able to seal the deal in the end. They fall just short of the mark, but still 18 points for S2G. That's by no stretch of the imagination a good game for them. 20 points, though, at the top. The chicken dinner, a nice 10-10, even balance for K1, taking that one home. And Thundertalk as well with 16, a nice result.
Yeah, I think with Thunderdogs, they're very, very pleased with how this one went down. I think for K1, 10-10, really, really good stuff. The S2G is 6 points into 12 points, getting 18 points. I think S2G, again, throughout the entirety of the day, has just been eking out those numbers slowly but surely, which is great. And I think that's exactly what they should be doing. I think out of all of our teams, they are the most consistent and now are in first place because of it.
Absolutely. Look at that. SCG 41 points at the top of the table. K1 in number 2 with 37 though, and it's a fairly evenly fought battle as you go down towards 5th place. We are starting to see a little bit of cream rising to the top here though, as we have some teams breaking away. That top 4 looks fairly convincing. That 4-point gap down towards BWNRX, maybe you could bring them in as well, and maybe there's an outside that you could put Falcons in. That's